Bushi are members of a family community that existed in Japan from the 10th to the 19th centuries with the master of the family headed at the top. It can be read as Mononofu. But there are various theories about its origin, such as the theory called for by Mr. Otomo and citation needed, Mr. Monobi. The synonyms are samurai, musha, muza, but the nuances of combatants or qualifications are stronger than samurai. In other words, there are some samurai who are almost unrelated to combat and cannot be called samurai. However, all samurai are samurai. However, these terms are not synonymous. See samurai for the relevant item. Soldiers, military, and samurai are used not only in samurai but also in Japan. Although it is not a word to ask, it is poor in gender expression, but it is called a female warrior, onimusha, only when a female warrior strongly has combatant characteristics. It is understood that the samurai occurred during the Heian period and overthrew the aristocratic society with its military power, ending the ancient times. While maintaining the old court as a puppet, samurai built a medieval society in which the samurai led the regime. Furthermore, it continued to be a central figure in the history of Japan until the end of modern times, the end of the Edo period. Many samurai who participated in the modern government, Meiji government, as human resources were central to the abolition of the existence of samurai in the modern era. Samurai origin theory. Samurai armor. Large samurai armor, Tokyo National Museum collection. Samurai's change helmets. 17th century, Edo period work. Collection of Anne and Gabriel Barbie Muller Museum in Dallas, USA. Drawn samurai. A painting depicting Yoichi Nasu, a samurai of the Heian period, the Watanabe Museum of Art, Tottori City. A figure depicting the Battle of Kawanakajima, astronomical 22nd year, 1553. There are various theories about the origin of samurai, and there is no definitive theory. The following three can be mentioned as the main theories. Classic theory for development lords. Local lore theory. The theory that it originates from a function that has been raised in recent years. Theory of function theory seeking the origin of the national military system under the ritual system. National military theory. Local territorial theory. Studies on the origin of samurai are closely related to the discovery of the Middle Ages. It was discovered that there was also a medieval age in Japan by historian Chiyuki Miura of the Meiji era. In Western history at that time, the Middle Ages was unique to the West and was considered an essential era for modern development. Asia and Africa were still, at that time, ancient societies, and it was considered impossible to develop into a modern society like the West. Miura et al. Focused on the fact that the Middle Ages of Europe was supported by knights who were armed feudal lords that occurred in the frontier due to the great migration of the Germanic people. Positioning the samurai who played an active part in society as the same as knights armed feudal lords, he claimed that Japan could modernize, saying that the Middle Ages existed in Japan, in Asia. The samurai are the development lords of privately owned fields, and their origins are armed large farm owners to counter intervening receipts with resistant slaves. This theory was widely accepted and remained the mainstream of the academic world even after the war. Under the influence of material history, samurai was positioned by Tadashi Ishimoto and others as a changer who eliminated the aristocrats and religious powers of the ancient ruling class and brought about the Middle Ages. Functional theory. However, the theory of development lord could not explain the occurrence of all samurai. In particular, I cannot explain the origin of the samurai who were closely related to gunmen such as senior samurai who originated from the main members of the samurai group, such as Genji, Taira, and Fujiwara. Therefore, Shinichi Sato, Masataka Yui Yoko, Yoshimi Toda, Masaki Takahashi and others proposed the occupational samurai origin theory in which these samurai in Tokyo are the origins of samurai. The difference between a military officer and a samurai. This section may contain proprietary research. Please help us improve the article by verifying the problem areas and adding sources. See note for discussion. Samurai are generally referred to as family communities or martial arts officers, but this alone does not make a clear difference from samurai officers under the ritual system before the Heian period. For example, Sakao Tamura Amaro, a well-known samurai warlord, is an excellent military officer but not a samurai. Also, it is not clear what is different from the samurai of China and Korea. There were samurai in China and Korea, but no one was like the samurai in Japan. In terms of the times, the existence called samurai appears in the middle of Heian period 10th century, when the national culture was established. In other words, the person who was engaged in the war before that was a samurai but not a samurai. So what is the difference between a military officer and a samurai? To put it simply, a military officer is armed as a public official and a full-time civil servant who has been trained in a rhythm officer system. While a samurai says a new style of martial arts established in the 10th century. People who consist of lower-class aristocrats, lower-ranking officials, and housekeepers of powerful people who have been officially certified as armored by the imperial court and the national armor, and who practice martial arts under the ritual-controlled training mechanism. I was not the one who put it on. However, it was an armed group whose main purpose was to engage in military activities as a public official. Also, those who simply armed themselves were not recognized as samurai. When this point was not fully understood in history, some saw the samurai as a gangster that was armed privately outside the control of the state. However, it is true that the behavioral principle of the samurai society, which is an armed group, is so common that the behavioral principle characteristic of gangsters such as yakuza in modern society cannot be ignored. Outsourcing the administrative system of the imperial court, such as military, martial arts, accounting, calculation, and legal affairs Mingo, to the house of the officials who inherit various home arts from the officials trained within the ritual system. It was the dynasty-state system of the Heian period. The state-recognized house in charge of the military was a samurai. In the dynasty's national system, the lower aristocrats who are working officers of the class appointed to receive the 4th and 5th places, and the 6th place technical officers and family members who served the upper aristocrats and the large husbands were called samurai, and they were in charge of administrative practice. The martial arts practice and samurai who were skilled officials also straddled these two positions, and the military aristocrats such as Mr. Kyowagen and Mr. Muhei Hiraki from Tokyo were major husbands, and the majority of local samurai were samurai. In the local community, the reception that reigned over the national rule was the status of major husbands, and the samurai status was the one who formed a ruler class to serve it. One of the reasons for this is the fact that in the Japanese dictionary of the early 17th century, a few centuries after the warrior's outbreak, samurai means noble and bushi means soldier. It is more accurate to say that the majority of the samurai, except the upper-class samurai, formed a part of the samurai status rather than calling the samurai who were recognized as serving the aristocrats, as is often said. Let's do it. In addition, masters such as samurai and samurai class homes can be taught from parents to children through a gifted education from an early age. Was greeted. It is considered that the number of homes certified as samurai increased in this way. In other words, a military subcontractor licensed by the state was the real image of the samurai. Then, the imperial court and the national court gathered those who belonged to the samurai's house as needed to collect the dispute. Aside from this, until the early period of the Middle Ages, there was also the name of a person who could exercise sanctions on other people, including the lord's class, as samurai. This can be understood by referring to the list of samurai kitamen, who were active in the government as well, including many monks and priests other than samurai. Origin of professional samurai. A samurai hand-colored photograph wearing armor. The original photo was taken around 1880. Samurai wearing armor hand-painted photo. The original photo was taken around 1880. Historical Japanese military equipment. With regard to the origin of samurai, it was traditionally the mainstream theory that the emerging regional lords emphasized the armed aspect of self-defense. When such an armed group was organized as a samurai group, the lower aristocrats, underground people, and the lower officials dispatched from the city as kokushi were appointed as masters, and a larger-scale organization was carried out. Lower-class aristocrats from the imperial family, such as Genji and Takahira, became the masters of the samurai family, which were above the samurai group. However, in recent years, it has been proposed that the origins are rather aristocrats such as Mr. Seiwa Gen and Mr. Takahira, and the side of lower officials. It is the theory that they developed from the establishment of the manor public territory in the late Heian period as a territorial manager in connection with the manor of the manor in the national government. In other words, the organization as a samurai corps was done from top to bottom, not from bottom to top. The aristocrats that specialize in the military, from which such samurai originated, are called military aristocrats, samurai aristocrats. During the Heian period, when the local rule of the imperial court shifted to a system in which power was concentrated on receipt, which was the head of the state, the armed assaults of the millionaires against the receipt of receipts began to occur frequently. Initially, the recipients suppressed the Ezo group, which was detained in various places during the Tohoku Suppression War, that is, the prisoners as private soldiers specializing in horse attacks. However, it is believed that they were returned to Tohoku when the conflict between inmates and local communities became severe. Instead, those who have participated in the actual security activities as an inmate as a private soldier and those who have received it. Those who have departed from the Central Succession Force and fell from the various husbands who can be appointed to suppress regional conflicts. As a matter of fact, Emperor Uta and Emperor Daigo had a turmoil nationwide due to the national political reforms that Emperor Sugawara Michizane and Fujiwara Tokihei were appointed. They bet to return to the Odera group, improved the Ezo tactics, worked as elite cavalry warriors with long armor and sword-cutting swords, and received official recognition as the first martial arts house. It was Hidehara Fujiwara, Takanomiya Taira, and Mototsune Minamoto are considered to be the first-generation samurai, and they have a large-scale quota contract with Kogatetsu in the same place as the traditional millionaires Tegonagi. By doing so, he was given the economic base as a warrior. However, dissatisfaction with the meritorious deeds, the national government side ran for tax exemption that trampled on their pride as a new warrior, and mishandled when they intervened in a regional conflict from their pride as warriors. What happened was a rebellion by Junto Fujiwara and Kadaira's grandson, Taira Shomen, and the Johei Tenkei rebellion. At this point, the samurai's economic base was still quota contract work, not the owner. However, in the middle of the 11th century, when the manor became more yen and armed conflicts frequently occurred between the manor lands of the nations, as a tax collector of the manor, the county, town, which is the official territory, the police, the chief judge, samurai who were able to deal with military conflicts were often appointed to the shogunate soji of the manor and gunja, goji, and hoji of the territory, and the samurai as a territorial manager with these as territories were established. There was a samurai warrior in Hakata Ward, Genki, 1293. The stone construction site at the time of construction, as depicted in the Mongu invasion picture. Samurai as a house of entertainment kabuki actor hand-painted photo of a samurai. The original photo was taken around 1880. Kabuki actor dressed as a samurai hand-painted photo. The original photo was taken around 1880. A samurai can be defined as not only a social status but also a professional status in which the performing arts of martial arts is a family business. In other words, it can be said that the samurai are those who were born in a family that inherited the manners of shooting on horseback in battle and who inherited it. Also, even after the establishment of the Bakuman house in the Middle Ages, there was a separate job category equivalent to a military officer in the imperial court. The Genji and Haraji styles and the descendants of Hidehara Fujiwara, Shugo Ryu, are particularly famous. Other than these, there are many Toshihito Fujiwara originators. Utsunomiya, who is a descendant of Mishikane Fujiwara, and Watanabe of Saga Genino, who is famous for Hiramoto. The troop originated in one of these lineages. It can be said that they were proud of their family line and their prestigious ancestors because their home was recognized as a samurai by the ancestors Tokina. However, this argument does not apply to Uchi, the influential warrior of Suo, who claims to be the descendants of King Baekje.